I change your bum life. You fight me, it's a celebration.
I would beat you.
When you sign to fight me, it's a celebration. You ring back home, you ring your wife. Baby, we done it. We're rich, baby. Conor McGregor made us rich. Break out the red panties.
Let's get it all!
Yo, welcome back to the fifth round. As always, your boy, Stephen Moustaris. And of course, over my shoulder, over there laying on the bed, Gracie, greatest co-host of all time. But, you know, guys, before I get too crazy into this topic and everything, you know, I do just want to say, you know, Happy New Year's to everybody. Merry Christmas to everybody as well. Happy Hanukkah, whatever you believe in. You know, shouts out to everybody. Hopefully everybody had a healthy holiday. Hope everybody got what they wanted or got to see the people they wanted and be with the loved ones. So, you know, it was a great weekend, and especially for us sports fans out here, man. Like, just from college football, the crazy endings there, to literally the missed field goal being literally when the ball is dropping. The crazy NFL weekend. You know, NBA had some crazy stuff. 71-point game, 60-point game. I think Clay had like a 50-something point game last night. And clearly the whole NFL thing, I don't even want to talk about last night. That shit was so sad. But, you know, the topic of the town right now, I should say, is the whole Dana White scenario right now with him and his wife. The whole video that came out from them on New Year's Eve in Mexico together. And there's no way, if you're watching this video, there's no way you didn't see that. And I'm not going to put it on here. But, you know, I thought about kind of opening and talking about that. But, man, it's such a touchy subject. Like, I know there's the footage is out there. I know you see, you know, Dana's wife smack the fucking shit out of him quick, and then he hits her a couple times. And, you know, I don't care if a girl hits you 20,000 times. Like, unless she's trying to stab you or kill you, like, you should never lay your hands on a woman. But I don't know, it's just a touchy subject. I don't want to beat any up or kick anybody while they're down. I don't want to add any fuel to the fire. You know, I'd like to say I do this for the fighters and not necessarily the promoters and everything. And although I love the UFC and I love the sport of MMA, you know, I will always respect Dana White for what he's done for the sport and for us fans and for the fighters and everything. But, man, yeah, I'm not even touching this one. This one's a very bad look. And, you know, I got to get a joke in there. But I just think it's real funny how it seems like Dana's trying to be the first champion of his slap league. But, hey, that's what I'm leaving it at. But anyway, to get back to the point, back to the fighters, back to what should be deserved to be talked about. Man, this crazy fight card over the weekend where Bellator decided to bring 5 of their best guys and they take on Rizin with some of their best guys. And you know what, man? Such a phenomenal fight card for me. I didn't watch the whole thing. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I think it was like Rizin 40 or something was like the first part. And then, of course, like the last 5 fights were the Bellator versus Rizin guys. Or Rizin, whatever I say Rizin. I think it's Rizin technically, but the Japanese fight club. You know, what I love so much about this, when they announced this like 4 months ago, I was so fucking hyped for it. I mean, not only because you got like AJ McKee and Pitbull Freire and I think Juan Archuleta and Horiguchi was on there. You know, some of my favorite Bellator fighters made the card. You know, of course, you kind of want to see like Michael Venom Page in there maybe, or, you know, Raymond Daniels or something. You know, some of the fighters, you know what I'm saying? But I loved how Scott Coker goes out of his way and goes, you know what? Let's do this shit. Let's start to kind of get Bellator's name out there. I think they've been doing a great job in the last year or two, getting their name out there, getting the fighters some love. And what I love so much about this is just it shows the evolution of the sport. And as well as it's showing the evolution of the sport, it's also kind of bringing me back a little bit. And yeah, don't get me wrong, I didn't get into the fighting, or at least MMA, until about like the mid-2000s, like about 2005, 2006 area. So yeah, I'm not going to lie to you. When I'm talking about the shoot box guys and the Brazilian top team guys right now, like, yeah, technically I wasn't around at the time to watch it. I think I was like 3 years old when these guys were fighting and these fight teams were coming up. But, you know, when you get into MMA, you start doing the deep dives of the Wanderlei Silvas, the Anderson Silva, Chuck Liddells, you know, the Pride days, and Sakuraba, all these guys, you know, the Huas, the Big Nog, Little Nog, all these crazy guys that were just talented back in the day. But it used to be like, and there's a lot of us who train, like I train Muay Thai, and I mean, I don't know about you guys, but my coach was Ryan Madigan, and he was on the Chuck Norris fight team back in the day. You know, back in the day, there used to be the fight teams. It's like you guys would have it would always pretty much be around the same, you know, weight class. It always seemed to be like that 170 to like 200 pounds, like them guys would be together. And it was back in the day when you guys wouldn't fight each other almost, or you would pick your teams and you guys would go fight other ones. And especially like dojos, like a lot of the karate days and all that stuff, where a lot of the fights were in the gyms. Like, I mean, everybody knows that Nate Diaz fight where he's like 16-year-old and he fights a like 25-year-old guy, and it's in the gym, and it's like that's how they used to fight back in the day. And I mean, unless you were on Pride, UFC, Elite XC, something like that, then yeah, you're making them fights. But for the most part, a lot of it was underground. A lot of it was in the training rooms, like. So that's kind of what it gives me the vibes to. And don't get me wrong, I absolutely love the dynamic of like the UFC having their own championship and like having all their best guys fight. I love, watching the Bellator cards where they all fight. But it kind of gives you like a nice little it shows you the respect more of the sport and how it's more of a team game. And like without training partners and without the right coaches and stuff, like you're never going to be who you're supposed to be as in a fighter, or at least become a championship level fighter. And yeah, I know today it's kind of getting mixed up now where all these different gyms are so good now and you got all these different specialists. So like, one guy will go to Henry Hoof for kickboxing, and then the other guy, is going to a, either 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu with like Eddie Bravo or something, or, going to Brazil with all them killers, that's still the Gracies and all them. And so like, I mean, you got your different schools where, one will go here and then you go here for boxing, go here for kick. Like you're traveling all over. So you're not really in one gym anymore. And I know there's like American Top Team, American Kickboxing Academy. You got Rufus Sport. You got all these like Team Alpha Male. You got all these teams that they still technically still the same camp. Everybody goes there. They got enough coaches to bring in, but it's more so kind of leaning towards now. It's like an individual sport where it's like, okay, like the whole T.J. Dillashaw and Cody Garbrandt thing. It's like they were training together forever, and they these boys who are helping each other out and becoming training partners. It starts becoming a conflict when they're, the top 5 in the UFC. And it's like, for the first couple of years, we can sit there and fight everybody else that's not in our camp. But if our camps continue to get better, and we got Uriah Faber up top, we got TJ Dillashaw coming up, we got Cody Garbrandt coming up, I think we had Danny Castillo. We had everybody in the world in that team. It's like, yeah, sooner or later, you guys are going to have to start fighting each other. So that's when you start seeing teams kind of break up and everything, and it's all for themselves, like who wants to be the UFC champ. And this is what I love so much about Bellator. It's like AJ McKee and Pitbull right now, Patricio Pitbull Freire, like they're 1-1 right now in their title fights against each other. We're probably going to see a third fight here in the future, I'm guessing, unless AJ is just completely done with 145 and he wants to move up to 155. But still, there's that trilogy match that should be out there. I think Juan Archuleta's fought all these guys. Kyoji Horiguchi has fought all these guys. Like all 4 of these guys have literally fought each other before, and to see them put that to the side and be like, yo, look, we're representing Bellator right now, we're going to fight over these Rizin guys or Rizin, whichever one you want to say. And it's like that part was so cool, and to see the team dynamic come back and to see it's all for one. And plus, not to mention too, is like this sport is just, like I said, the whole evolution of the sport is just growing so crazy, and it's so cool now to see. Like I said, like I'm not even joking. Like, yeah, there's these kids at the Dana White Contender Series are usually coming up now, like 18, 19, 20 years old, like maybe 22, 23, but still, they're only having a couple fights, and they're like lower promotions, and they're coming up, and it's just showing you that like any one of these guys can come in. And that's why I love so much about the fight game, man. It doesn't matter who you're fighting. Somebody can get you. You can fuck up on a takedown. You can be Habib. You can be one of the best takedown artists of all time. And you slip one little time or just fuck up one little thing. And some guy that doesn't even train, or I should say doesn't train wrestling as well as he does, or maybe not even on the same grappling level, could maybe just slip the hand under the neck and then, oh, there you go. I'm choking him out. And you got to choke against Habib, even though I know it's a bad comparison because Habib's never lost. But that's what I'm just saying. Like, we see it all the time. Like, Kamaru Usman absolutely dominating Leon Edwards for how long? And then Leon says, oh, hold my beer, last minute, gonna kick you. I didn't do shit all fight, but I'm gonna kick you in the face. It's like, it's what I love about fighting. So to think that these guys, and I know the UFC right now, they got the high head, they got the heavy everything, heavy ego. They trust themselves too much, and they just believe in themselves too much. They're like, hey, we're too good for these guys. In which, yeah, it's probably true. The UFC is only going to be losing if they go on to fight a Bellator or a Rizin or a ONE FC or all these different promotions. But truly, deep down, I would love to start seeing this shit, because it's like you keep your UFC fight cards, keep your Bellator fight cards, whatever. Maybe once a year we have like a huge tournament style where it's a couple months, kind of like a World Cup type thing, where it's like, maybe every other year we have our best 145ers come, like the top 3 guys from the UFC, Bellator, ONE, all these guys maybe start fighting each other, have like a huge, just a huge Grand Prix, and then have like I know it'll get too much like boxing, and then it'll be like, oh, who's gonna fight who and all that shit. So maybe there are some flaws right now in the different rule sets and everything between the promotions. Like they'd have to have one rule, like one unified rule for all of it. So I mean, there'd be some kinks to work out, but you're telling me it wouldn't be pretty fucking cool to have, the 145 champion, Alexander Volkanovski go on fight Pitbull, and then go on to fight whoever the 145 champion won, and all these, that shit. You're telling me that wouldn't be cool as shit to have one universal champ as 145, like the world champ, and not just UFC, not just Bellator. And like that's the other thing too. It's like, yeah, I know a lot of us protect the UFC and we love them, but like I think we get it fucked up thinking that those guys are the only ones that can fight or the only ones that could win. Like, man, like how big of a risk the UFC would be taking if they threw in Max Holloway, Alexander Volkanovski, and say like whoever else is coming up at the time. I mean, you could literally throw in anyone. It's up to you. 145 so stacked, so I guess you could probably pick and choose, kind of like what Bellator and Rizin just did. Even though Pitbull's the champion, he was co-main, and AJ McKee got the main event just because he's a little more popular, a little more hyped right now. He's coming up a little fresher, so. I think it would be cool. Like, I mean, you could say Josh Emmett, whatever, Yair Rodriguez, say that, and then you got the Pitbull, you got AJ McKee, and you got Horiguchi or whatever, or you can even do like the 135 where like Patchy Mix, Horiguchi, and whoever. You know what I'm saying? Like, it would be so fucking cool to see, and I think we would be shocked as fans to really kind of notice how skilled everybody else is in the world, and it's just not because you're in the UFC and you got the main. You got the main spotlight on you. So I absolutely love it. Shouts out to Bellator. Shouts out to Rizin. And there were some good fights, man. No one finished each other. There was a couple really close fights, and like Pitbull did his job. AJ McKee did his job, but they both got into some weird positions where you're like, oh man, this could be dangerous for him. And yeah, since they're so fucking talented, they work through it. But I mean, these guys in Rizin are no slouches, dude. They put Juan Archuleta almost lost the damn fight. I think AJ McKee was in some tough spots in the first round, and I think the third round, if I remember correctly, he had some ugly positions where he's just so good and he got through them. And I mean, even Pitbull had some awkward spots going on in the first round. So I mean, yeah, some of them won kind of easily, and yeah, Bellator went 5-0, but just because they went 5-0, it was a lot closer than that. It's a lot closer than just saying, oh, they went 5-0 with a sweep. Like, there were some really good fucking fights. So I mean, the ball's on Scott Coker. Good for him. Couldn't imagine how dangerous that would have been for you, because if Bellator's got that number 2 seed, I would say pretty locked up unless you're a one championship type guy. But at least here in the States, I mean, Bellator is definitely number 2. And it's like for them to take on Rizin like that, like that's a big leap of faith right there for Scott Coker. And the fact that he had the faith in his homies or in his fighters, and then to have his fighters all 5 of the guys, and even all their team and everything, like they had that huge group pitch, which I'm sure it'll be up on the screen right now. Like, it was just super cool. And yeah, it took me back to like that 90s days where it's like the shoot box versus the Brazilian top team guys. Like, you had Anderson Silva coming up, Wanderlei Silva, the Hua brothers, I think Chris Cyborg, Sakuraba was there. I mean, and going for days, Vitor Belfort, Bustamante, Fiallo, Big Nog, Lil Nog. I think Rosemir Paul Harris was on Brazilian top team too. Like, it was just a cool thing back in the day where it's, you're not just fighting for yourself, you're fighting for your team as well. And it's just some cool shit, because that's why I love so much about MMA as well. The fight game is not only are you guys trained to be killers, and you're out there technically, you're trying to end this dude, and you're not trying to end his life, but you are trying to knock this guy out conscious, or you're trying to choke him out, or you're trying to do whatever to win this fight. And just the respect out of the art is what I love so much. And this is what kind of brings that respect out more, is the team aspect, where it's, you're sitting there rooting for each other. You're trying to pick each other up instead of beating each other down and talking shit like they do at like the Bellator fights or the UFC fights or whatever press conference. Like, I'm sure Rizin does it too. I just can't understand what they're saying half the time. So, but shit, I really think this is the future of MMA, man. I really do. I love everything about it, and especially with this whole Dana White thing going on right now and him fucking up. Next thing you know, he's out of the UFC, and then, which I highly doubt it, but I'm just saying, Daniel Cormier or somebody steps up. Who knows who they have in line right now? Paul Felder, who knows who they have in line right now? Like, anything could fucking happen, man. You're just a couple champions away from retiring or losing in some crazy fashion, to being like, man, shit, like, we don't have that cash cow right now. We might as well go out and fight Bellator. So, I definitely think if I'm Bellator 1, Rizin, keep going on for days about certain, LFA. You know, got a couple of these guys. Like, if you can keep doing what you're doing and keep getting your guys' names out there and keep evolving with the sport and letting the sport get your guys' names hyped up and everything and letting us cover everybody like we're trying to do, giving these guys a spotlight, if they can keep doing this like once a year, maybe even all of them get together and do like a big thing and keep the UFC out of it, I think it would make a lot of noise. And I think sooner or later we're going to start realizing that just because you fight for Rizin or just because you fight for ONE FC or whoever, your Bellator, whatever, it doesn't mean that you're not a champion or you're not good enough to be the best fighter in the world. So absolutely love it. Shouts out to Bellator, shouts out to Rizin. I can't wait for another one if they do decide to do it. I'm telling you, man, something felt different. I know not a lot of people watched, and you know, it wasn't like the craziest fights in the world, so I will say that, but I'm telling you, man, something felt right this weekend when I saw that shit. It just felt like there was a change coming. And it's nice to see another promotion do it, not just the UFC. But this is the 5th round. As always, your boy, Stephen Moustaris. Let's go, baby.